Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends. Welcome once again to another episode on the Life Signatures Radio. We are thankful that this is episode number 1442. 1542 actually, and we're going strong and strong. Every single day we are waking up to a new episode, and these episodes, either we're talking about purpose, we're talking about productivity, or we're talking about resilience. How do we deploy this? For the most part, you can bet on this. For the most part, it's not just a single episode. It's a series of messages. I love doing series because they help us to go 360 degrees into a particular subject matter, and we explore it. It's easy for me to group all these things together and give you all the points for this particular series at once. But it doesn't simmer. You know, there's something called simmering. We are living in a microwave technology, microwave generation, but growth and everything new normally simmers. If you're roasting that beef, right, that steak, excuse me, all you vegetarians, but if you're roasting the steak, you know what happens? I'm going to come back to you vegetarians. But if you're roasting the steak, you cannot microwave it. It takes time. You've got to marinate it first, and you've got to put some spices in it. And then you've got to give it some heat, some soft heat, and increasingly over some considerable amount of time. It's simmering. You know, it's roasting it slowly until just the meat can easily fall off of the bone. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you're a vegetarian, let's use animals. They normally ruminate. You know what I'm talking about? They eat the vegetables, and then they regurgitate and start ruminating and re-eating it. Okay. That's the best I can say about vegetarians. Let us continue talking about why it is true that pain is weakness leaving the body. That's the series we started yesterday. I'm talking about simmering. So stay tuned.
Welcome to the Life Signatures podcast with Lawrence Namale. Lawrence is a life coach, author, and keynote speaker who loves to tackle different topics on purpose, productivity, and resilience. His mission in life is to awaken all your boundless possibilities available in you. Life Signatures podcast is dedicated to bring to reality every single person who knows that deep down in their gut, there's got to be more to life than this. And now, here is your host, Lawrence Namale.
Well, we are talking about this series. In this series, we're talking about it is true, pain is weakness leaving the body. Yesterday, we tied all these things together in kind of like a summary of the whole thing we're going to be talking about. And we say that the human being wants to grow, but growth comes at an expense. In every aspect, in every area of our lives, if we want to grow, we're going to pay the price for it. One way or another. There are no two ways about it. We're going to pay the price for growth. You understand what I'm saying? So we continue talking about this even as we're building a foundation before we can start talking about the very points that are important for us to note. See, I've come to realize that in my work, my villain, my biggest villain, in fact, there's a time, by the way, I was having a conversation with people. I asked them a question. I said, what is your villain? In the things that you're doing right now in your life, whom do you consider to be your enemy, your biggest enemy? What are you fighting against? And a bit of people, quite a number of them, a big percentage of them actually struggled. They struggle to identify what are they rising up against. And I'm just going to go on a tangent here and say this, that you see, every one of us has a brand. We are a brand in our respective ways. And one aspect of a brand is a villain. whom it is that you're coming up against. What is it that you stand up against? What is it that you stand up for? If you stand up for something, you stand up against something. And so you need to know what villain it is that you are fighting. Every one of us, there is a villain that we are fighting. Go and figure out who it is that really is your villain. The clearer it is that you have a particular villain, and the way you can be able to describe this villain, probably the more successful you can be in your life. For me, my villain is status quo, and I'm just going to tell you that. It's status quo. Because I find that every time I'm talking about this concept and these theories of mine, they are for the most part against what has been known, what is being practiced. It's against the status quo. Talking about the message of purpose is always going to be against the culture of the day, the status quo of the day that mass produces people, puts people in the sea of sameness. See, someone might tell me, you going up against status quo is hard luck. It is the status quo that keeps the comfortable. It is the status quo that keeps us in the known, the experienced, the tried, the proven, the tested. Who wants to change what works at the end of the day? Nobody wants to change what works. But then enter pain, the enemy of status quo. I don't care what kind of status quo you have. But every time there is pain, it is always going to be a disruption of your status quo. But what is pain really? Someone might ask, what is pain? What is the definition of pain? When you pull all the definitions together and you identify them, you go one by one, you just analyze them, you find out there is one common denominator of pain as a definition, and it is simply this: it is the interruption of status quo. That is what pain is. That's what I'm going to use going forward. But guess what? It is feedback. Pain is feedback. It tells you what's uncomfortable, and that reveals where you are supposed to work on. It reveals the thing that you're supposed to work on. But let's look at pain from a totally different angle altogether. Since we're not in control of eternal pain, we're not in control of external pain, let's talk about the pain that results from our inspired actions. You cannot be in control of COVID-19 coming. I mean, nobody was in control of that. Nobody is in control, probably for the most part. Nobody is in control of sickness that attacks the body. But sometimes that pain, we're not in control of it. But sometimes we're in control of the pain that comes because we have taken an action. We are in control of such like pains. It comes because we've taken an action. But let's just, before we can go far, let's just talk about the power of weakness. Remember, we're talking about pain is weakness leaving the body. Let's talk about weakness itself. You and I might not be in control of the pain of a heartache. We might not be in control of the pain of an accident, or a job loss, or death of a loved one, or loss of revenue in business. Whatever the case, we might not be in control of these external things. They are part and parcel of life. That's what life is made up of. And that's what life does to us. In fact, sometimes if we go spending some amount of time trying to circumnavigate these kinds of pains, it is sometimes foolhardy. It finds you, because we're living in a dark, we're living in a fallen world. Even when life is going on, the idea of pain is being weakness leaving the body can be technically forced to apply here. But let us venture in this diversion for a minute. See, weakness is that which is not needed in helping you and I to fulfill our greatest potential. When you do your SWOT analysis, what do you do about your weakness? Sometimes I normally say SWOT/bold. What do you do with your weaknesses? Weakness is that which is not needed in helping you and I to fulfill our greatest potential. And guess where the weakness is always going to be found? Can you guess? It will always be found in the annals of the status quo. That's where you're going to find weakness. It is always found in the untouched, the unmoved. By the way, the status quo has a very big way of sugarcoating weaknesses and massaging it until we do not identify it. When change comes, when newness comes, when something new comes, that weakness gets exposed. Nothing exposes weakness in our body and in our inspired actions like change does. It tells you that you are not prepared. Weakness is just a message. You are not prepared. You're not ready. You're not good enough yet. You are a novice now. That feeling can be very uncomfortable, and it's where it is risky. The potential that people have can be aborted the moment initial realization of weakness comes. The moment realization of pain comes. I'm not good enough for this. I was not made to do this. That's the thing you're telling yourself, because change has now identified or has exposed your quote-unquote weakness. But this change has got to be sustained at some point in time. This pain has got to be sustained at some point in time. And the more you sustain, the more you dwell in the uncomfortable, the more you realize that you can be able to change, you can be able to transform, you can be able to grow. But when pain is realized, when weakness is exposed, and you just give feedback that I am not meant to do this. Maybe you start going out for public speaking. First time you give it a try, pain comes in the form of people laughing at you and people just sleeping as you're talking, people disinterested and indifferent as you're talking. That is pain. And you know, at that very moment in time, it's a very, very highly risky thing for you. Because invariably when that happens, when that pain comes, exposing our weakness, you know what we normally do? We say, I am not good for this, or I am not meant to do this. And then what do? We stop right there. But we need to understand that pain of people laughing at you, people being disinterested in you, it's the exposure of your weakness. The more you feel that pain in the interim, the more that weakness is leaving. It is just a matter of time before people can start identifying and saying, hey, that's the guy. That's the guy who was stammering in his speech. Look at him. Wow. Weakness left the body because you allowed pain in the momentary time to work on your weakness. This is very instructive. This is very extremely instructive, because very many times we quit because of this quote-unquote pain. I'm not just talking about the pain of the body, pain in every way. What was our definition of pain? Our definition of pain was the interruption of status quo. What is status quo? People are not laughing at you because you're not giving a speech. When you decide to give a speech and you're not a novice, you've never been trained in public speaking, people start laughing at you, people start being disinterested. It's an uncomfortable situation. That's pain. And it's exposing your weakness at that moment in time. Stay around there and let the weakness simmer. Let it be cooked. That weakness is leaving the body the more you remain in the painful situation momentarily. It is not forever. It is not forever. That's one of the things that we need to realize. Pain sometimes is not forever. In fact, even the physical pain, wherever pain comes, what do we want to do? We want to address it. We want to go back to comfort. We want to go back to the status quo. But sometimes this weakness, this pain that comes and exposes our weaknesses, it's a good thing. You go out to start jogging and guess what happens? Your muscles start paining. and you just like, I don't need this now. What are you doing when you say I don't need this now? You are covering the weakness and you're going back to start at school. But you expose the weakness, and against the weakness that you're feeling right now, go back. What is happening to you? You are letting that weakness leave the body through the pain that you're suffering at the moment in time. Tomorrow we'll continue talking about these things, but until then, bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Life Signatures Radio. If you enjoyed today's show, subscribe to Life Signatures Radio on iTunes, Stitcher, or visit our website at lifesignatures.libsyn.com. Life Signatures Radio, fresh, clean, and inspiring.